All right, fun times, Turk of the Year. Okay, good news for everybody. Yes, there are some heroes in this year as well. Now, let's start political here and go to Elizabeth Warren first. Now, the reason Elizabeth Warren is a runners-up here for Turk of the Year is because she finally gave us a little bit of hope. I mean, in the darkness that is D.C., where Democrats act like Republicans, President Obama agrees with Republicans at nearly every turn. And it's one depressing sellout story after another where lobbyists win, the bankers win, the donors win. Here's one woman who stood up to all of them and fought back. Well, my favorite story was near the end of the year when one banking executive said, well, next year we're going to try to repeal all of Dodd-Frank. We're going to try to get rid of any regulation there are on the banks. But I'd be happy to come out even though they've bought almost all the Republicans and about half the Democrats. I mean, they control Congress so easily and significantly. He said, I'm happy to come out even because it's all of them versus Elizabeth Warren. Damn, that's strong. And in a speech she gave near the end of the year, she said to the banks, you're right, Dodd-Frank isn't great. We actually should change it. People are like, oh, really? So we should change it to make it stronger. What it should have done is broken you into pieces. Damn! There you go. That's why she is rising in the polls, even though she says yet that she has not decided to run in 2016 Democratic primaries, but she is rising incredibly fast as she should. A lone voice in the wilderness fighting for real change in D.C. Now, second runner-up here is an institution more than a person. It's the Innocence Project. But again, this year, boy, did they earn it. Let me give you some unbelievable stats about them overall, and then I'll tell you what they did this year. Since DNA testing has begun and exonerations have resulted from the DNA testing showing that, oh my God, these people didn't do it, their DNA doesn't match the actual person who did the crime, how many have there been? There's been 324 post-conviction exonerations. 324 people who say, oh yeah, we got him, okay, and sent him away for a long, long time and sometimes on death row, and it turns out we didn't get him, we got the wrong guy. Now, the DNA evidence also worked in tens of thousands of cases during the process, now that we have it, to actually get people off who were innocent, but who might have otherwise gone in jail. Now, the Innocence Project specifically worked on 173 of the 324 exonerations. Now, other people that work with them and that are allies of theirs worked on the other cases. Now, of the 324, 20 were capital crimes. So they were on death row, and then DNA evidence got them off of death row because it turns out they were innocent. The average length of time served for the people who were exonerated was 13 and a half years. That's 13 and a half years robbed of their lives on average when they were perfectly innocent. And total number of years served that should not have been served is 4,337. And, every once in a while you get the right-wingers who will say, oh, yeah, African Americans, you guys defend them, but a higher proportion of criminals are black, right? Well, we often make the case that, no, you arrest a higher proportion of African Americans. That doesn't mean that they actually did it. And there's a tremendous amount of bias. For example, white people on average in this country smoke more marijuana than black people do and use more drugs than black people do, on average, proportionally, okay? But blacks often get arrested, city by city it varies, but on average about 4 times as many times as white people do, even though white people do it more per capita. Okay, so that's obviously a problem, right? And when you go to do exonerations, it's based on science, it's based on DNA. So then you take the bias out of it, and who turns out to be innocent more often than not? Look at these numbers. Of the 324 who exonerated, 205 were African Americans, 95 Caucasians, 22 Latinos, and 2 Asian Americans. So nearly 2/3 of the people who were innocent but got put away anyway were black, okay? So it turns out there's a disproportionate number of innocent people who are African Americans who were put away. Okay. Now, the folks you were just looking at there is what the Innocence Project helped with this year. Those are the 7 people who were on death row who all got exonerated this year. Isn't that amazing? And again, 6 out of the 7 of those were also African American. So they had a banner year. They saved 7 lives, let alone all the other ones that were serving prison sentences. didn't do it that have also been let go, that were not on death row. So amazing work by the Innocence Project. Okay, now the final runner-up is a person, and it comes out of the attack in Peshawar, where the Taliban went in and killed 132 kids and over 140 people overall. Now, one of the adults they killed was a teacher named Afsha Ahmed. And Afsha Ahmed pretty much defines heroism. One of her students described what happened when the gunman and the terrorists burst into the classroom. Irfanullah, the student, the 15-year-old student, said, her last words to the terrorists were, "You must kill me first, because I will not see my students' bodies lying in front of me." She was so brave. And when she stepped up, of course, they did kill her. But they didn't just shoot her like they shot most people. They set her on fire. And this is where the 15-year-old again says, the next thing we knew, she was on fire. Even while burning, she shouted at us to run away and find refuge. And finally he adds, she is my hero. She was like a superwoman. Who will teach us now? And so there's oftentimes talk of Muslim fundamentalists who've done terrible things, including that attack in Peshawar, and that is right. And I think that's an issue that has to be addressed, and I was certainly very, very angry about that when it happened, and you can see that video on YouTube. But you should also remember that there are Muslim heroes like Afsha Ahmed, who was burned alive trying to save her kids, her students. So, incredible hero. Now, we go from a Muslim hero to a Christian hero who is our Turk of the Year. It's Dr. Kent Brantly. And once again, you want to talk about the definition of hero, it's this guy. And I'll tell you why. Look, first of all, he's a missionary, and he'd already gone to Uganda, Honduras, Nicaragua, Tanzania, Haiti, all in an effort to help people, okay? Now, he happened to be in Liberia for a 2-year program when Ebola broke out. Now, at this point, he's a doctor, okay? And he found that his mission, his calling in life, was to help people and to save people by being a doctor. So now he talks about God in nearly every sentence. He's evangelical Christian, but he says, I do my work through science to get to the results that God wants. Oh, I love this guy. I love this guy, okay? And the reason that he's the eventual winner, and of course he's representative of all the incredibly brave doctors who went to go fight Ebola. I mean, but the reason he wins is because, as a representative of all of them, he's the guy rushing into the building when the building's on fire. Everybody else is rushing out. This guy's rushing in. I mean, who of you out there thought, oh, Liberia, there's an Ebola crisis. I better head over there and help those people? I know I didn't think that. I know it takes an extraordinary human being to think that. Now, in Dr. Brantly's case, he happened to be in Liberia because he was already helping the people of Liberia before there was huge headlines over it. And as soon as he saw the Ebola outbreak, he jumped into the fray, and he actually became the chief there, medical director of Samaritan Purse's Ebola Consolidated Case Management Center in Monrovia. And as he was doing that, he contracted Ebola. Now, luckily, he was brought over here and his life was saved. Now, at first, they actually had some medicine they were willing to try that they thought had worked on other people before, but they only had one batch in the beginning. And he demanded that it be used on the other doctor who had also contracted Ebola. Just when you thought a guy can't get any better. And finally, let me give you a couple of references he had to God and how he thinks God works after he was saved. And he's incredibly grateful, this great speech about thanking all the people, Samaritan's Purse, Emory Hospital, etc. And in the midst of that, he said this: through the care of the Samaritan's Purse and SIM missionary team in Liberia, the use of an experimental drug and the expertise and resource of the healthcare team at Emory University Hospital, God saved my life, a direct answer to thousands and thousands of prayers. Now, don't get him wrong. When he had Ebola and he's removed from his family and he's there by himself, they asked him, how do you feel? He said, terrified. So that's the thing about bravery. And that's what we try to encourage here with this award in our own very small way, which is that it's not that it's not terrifying. Of course it's terrifying. The brave people aren't stupid. It's not like they don't see the danger. It's not like they don't see the risk. That they take that risk anyway to help others. That's what's amazing about guys like Dr. Brantly. And in this case, he says, look, God helped me because of those prayers, but also because of Emory University Hospital and all the work that they did. So you've got to do that in tandem. You can't just sit there on your couch and say, all right, God help me, and not do anything about it. This guy's the definition of taking action and putting in, look, I'm an agnostic, and so I don't believe the same things that he does. But he took what his beliefs are and he did something wonderful with them and put them into action, not just into words. Finally, he said, above all, I am forever thankful to God for sparing my life, and I'm glad for any attention my sickness has attracted to the plight of West Africa in the midst of this epidemic. So it's partly okay that I got sick, because at least it brought attention to the people you really need to be helping in West Africa. Doesn't get any more heroic than that. So we're very proud to have Dr. Cenk Brantly as our Turk of the Year this year.